Hey, good morning, everyone. Praful here, and welcome to yet another episode of the Candid Traders podcast, Decluttered, where we bring in the stories of successful professional traders, which will help you to improve your trading game. So, usually, क्या होता है? Lot of these trading videos they only focus on the strategies, entry exit points, and all that, but we focus on having this raw, unfiltered, candid content from the traders. And तो इस स्टोरी से आपको क्या देखना पड़ेगा? देखो, आई बिलीव दैट इफ यू आर इन द मार्केट, इफ यू कैन सस्टेन लाइक फर्स्ट 1 year or 2 years in the market, you will eventually crack the strategy. You will eventually find your sweet spot. You will eventually find your mojo. So don't focus much on the strategy part, but instead focus on the journey of these people, because eventually everyone started as an amateur. Eventually everyone started with a small capital. Eventually everyone had to convince their family, because even now, let's accept that trading is still considered gambling. तो ये part पे आप focus करो कि as a newbie, if you want to start out your career in trading, how do you approach your initial days? How do you handle the drawdowns? How do you handle your novice phase? How do you convince your parents? How do you raise capital? How do you convince your partner? So these are the things you can take from these interviews. So we have another young guy, young trader with us. I think he's probably the youngest of the lot that we have had on our show. Aditya Trivedi. He's quite popular on Twitter, and though he's young, he has got a good amount of trading experience under his belt. So, ये episode में you're gonna get a lot of insight from Aditya. So, welcome, Aditya.
Thank you for the kind introduction.
It's a pleasure to have you with us, Aditya. Really looking forward. And I think, each episode our guests are getting younger and younger. I'm starting to feel
Exactly.
older and older. And it's so nice to see that the financial education that is there, that, these days, a lot of traders starting off very young and doing so well. And Aditya is a prime example of that. So it's a pleasure to have you with us, Aditya, and looking
Thank you.
forward to everything you have to say.
All right. So I started trading 4 years back in my final year of graduation, and I asked for 1 lakh from my mom and dad, and it was very hard to convince them. They were a bit skeptical about stock markets. So I tried to convince them, and I put in that 1 lakh rupees into Zerodha account, and I used to trade basically. I used to trade from my classroom while I was going out, while I was traveling, and I was a very clueless person. I didn't know how to read charts. I didn't know anything basically. And I just used to take random trades. And I did everything. I tried everything: futures, cash, intraday trading, option buying, option selling. I did do it with 1 or 2 lots, but on 1 lakh rupees, the returns were very small. And I didn't do option selling basically with that 1 lakh rupees. So I was constantly searching for holy grails. I used to go to YouTube and find for strategies for indicate MACD strategy, RSI strategy. So I've done all of that basically. And I was so stupid. If I lost in a particular stock, uh, I wanted to take revenge on the same stock itself. And same goes with option strike price. And I was very stupid basically. After that, I graduated. I was still searching for strategies. And also I applied for few jobs, but I didn't make it through. So I was not sure what should I do. And I was also full of self-doubt. I was not sure if trading can be a full-time career or not. Is it even possible to make money from trading? So I joined Twitter, and that's when things changed. So when I saw on Twitter, I saw few people who were making huge money. There were 3 or 4 of them, I think. And they were posting screenshots of 50 lakh, 40 lakh, 1 crore in a single day. And I was shocked after seeing that. How is that even possible? So I searched, what are they doing? And they were selling options. So what happened after that was I searched everything about option selling. I went to YouTube, I searched how to do option selling. And after that, I took 5 lakh rupees from my parents again. So I took 4 lakhs. So the total was 5 lakh, I think. And after that, I traded the first ever expiry. It was Thursday with 5 lakh rupees. And I ended up with 5,000 rupees. And I was so happy that day that, wow, I made 1%, and Bank Nifty stayed at the same point. and I still made money. Still, the options fell. It was new to me, basically, option selling. So that kept on going. I started to trade
When
only
was
on
this,
Thursdays.
Aditya? Which
It
year
was
was
in
this?
2018.
Okay.
And
So
at
you
that time, the
started
market
as
was very
young as
simple.
20.
Yeah, 20.
हम क्या कर रहे थे
And at
श्रेयस भाई?
that time,
I
हाँ जी,
don't even know. Bilkul. Please go on, Aditya.
okay. So at that time, Bank Nifty was very easy to trade. You could sell a 50-50 angle and go to sleep. And after waking up, you can book your profits. It was that simple. It didn't need any adjustments, especially on Thursdays. So I started to trade, but there was one problem after that. There were only 4 Thursdays in a month. So what should I do on rest of the days? So that was a big problem for me. I wanted more practice. I wanted to trade more. So I started to trade on other days too. I started to carry overnight positions. And soon after I started to carry overnight positions, I faced my first ever big gap. So what happened was it was a Wednesday and Bank Nifty was going up. It was a clean trend day. It was going up. The calls were spiking and Bank Nifty closed at day high. After that, on Wednesday, 8 p.m., yeah, and I only carried put options overnight. I had only puts because Bank Nifty closed at day high, the calls closed at day high. It was a clean trend day, and I was expecting a gap up. So I just had. So what happened was on Wednesday at 8 p.m., I saw Dow Jones. It was down by 1,000 points, and it was still falling. After that, I saw all global markets were in red. SGX was still falling, and I was shocked. I was scared. I had trouble sleeping basically that night. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. just to check SGX Nifty. I again went to sleep. Again, I woke up. And finally, when the markets opened, I was ready with the square of all button. And I kept on pressing square of all button, but I could not exit. The options had freezed at the open itself in Bank Nifty
Oh,
after this huge gap down. And I was just constantly pressing it for half an hour.
Oh.
And that half an hour was the worst time I could ever face. I could not even
What was
exit
the
my
event,
position.
Aditya, if you could recall?
I'm not sure, but it was just a gap down.
When
All
was
the
it?
global markets were down.
When was it?
It was in 2018 towards the end, I think, towards October, November, December.
Was
I'm
it
not sure
taper
about the
tantrum?
exact
I
date.
don't think so.
I'm not sure, but the markets closed at day high and it opened with a huge gap down
Okay.
no,
after
man.
giving a breakout.
2018 is much after taper trend.
Yeah, I
That
guess,
was
yeah.
when interest rates were going up.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, but basically it was like a 2% gap down or something, or was it more than that?
I'm not sure. It was a bit more than that. I'm
Okay,
not
fair
sure about
enough.
that, but I ended up losing like 6% of my capital
That half an hour
and
must
I
have been
booked a
like
loss.
probably the worst 30 minutes of your life. You're
The
just
longest 30
panicking
minutes of his life.
Options were frozen.
and
I could not exit.
and
And
what
what
was your
happened
mark to market at that time and against the profits you had made so far? I mean, how bad was it?
it was like
Like
a
as a
40-50K
percentage?
loss, I think. It was a
Okay.
40-50. Yeah, it was like 40-50K loss, and I was trading with approx 6.5 lakh, I think. I had
Okay.
added a bit more capital, I think 6.5 or 7 lakhs.
Okay. So it was huge. I mean, that for that it's almost reaching
Yeah, it was
10%,
huge, and
like
it was my
8%.
first ever gap down. And I was a complete beginner. I was a newbie. So obviously,
Right.
it was shocking for me. It was bad. And I shut down my screen. I went to sleep, and I woke up at 3 o'clock. I went to sleep like good time, 4-5 hours, and I woke up at 3 o'clock. And then what I saw was that Bank Nifty, after gapping down, was at the same point itself, and the options which I had sold went to zero. So I was now
Oh,
even more frustrated. I just booked a huge loss, and these options could have given me profit. But in hindsight, it was the right thing to do. It could have gone further down. So again, that was my first ever experience with the big gap down.
Aditya,
yeah.
let's just talk about, how you managed to convince your parents, because you said that you were still in college, you were in the final year. Usually final year में students तो bike के लिए पैसे मांगते हैं या trip के लिए पैसे मांगते हैं. फ्रेंड्स के साथ पार्टीज करने के लिए
Hmm.
पैसे मांगता है. एंड व्हाट वाज द रिएक्शन ऑफ
Yeah,
योर
yeah.
पेरेंट्स व्हेन यू आस्क्ड फॉर मॉम लाइक आई वांट टू गैम्बल, that's what everyone calls, so I want to gamble, give me 1 lakh. What was the reaction when you said this?
So my mom and dad both were very skeptical. They didn't agree initially. I had to convince them a lot physically.
Okay, how did you
And
convince
I
them?
and
क्या क्या
I
बोल के
was like,
कन्विंस
"De
किया?
do, de do." I just told them like, uh, it's just 1 lakh, and if it goes, it goes. If it
Okay,
goes away, I will learn something,
okay.
and just give it to me. I want to try it out.
Guys, I think this is the best approach whenever you want to convince anyone of something. Okay, just give them the worst case scenario and tell them, bro, look at this. Even
Yeah.
the worst case scenario is not the end of the world. So
Correct.
let's
And who
consider.
knows?
Exactly. Let's go with the fact that okay, only the worst case scenario is gonna happen, and even with the worst case scenario, okay, what's the worst that could happen? You lose 1 lakh. So by losing 1 lakh, are we gonna come on streets? Are we gonna stay hungry? No.
I think, see, in that way, Indian parents, at least in urban cities, they're always a little bit encouraging of their kids. You know, they want their kids to do well, and
Yeah.
especially अगर कोई आके बोलेगा, बेटा आके बोलेगा कि मैं ये करना चाहता हूँ, I want to do this, like give me the opportunity. No parent who is like, even middle class, upper middle class will think towards, because okay, 1 lakh, what's going to happen? Maybe it is a few months salary, right, of the parents. Maybe it is like this thing, but it could be an entire career opportunity. This kid is showing a lot of interest, and like you don't want to feel like you didn't support. So that way is there, but there will be cases where the family cannot afford that also, and that is
Mhm.
there. So you will have to find other ways of actually showing something before you can start with 1 lakh. But I think that way parents, Indian parents, are always the kinds who, if your kid comes and says, boss, I want to do this, you help me out, they will try their best to do that. And of course, if you're positioned in a good situation where maybe 1 lakh isn't so significant at all, then that is not an issue. And after that, obviously, dikhana padta hai ki this is what I'm capable of, this is what I'm doing. Because any father will look at your business plan as a business plan. At least in Indian father, my father like went to him and said,
That's
"I
true.
want 10 lakh rupees to do this." He'd say, "Okay, batao, like what is the plan? What is my what am I looking at? How's my money going to grow,
Mhm.
or this thing?" So they will break you down. So that's there. But awesome, Aditya, like to start off so young and
Just to
to
add to this, Shreyas, whenever you
uh,
receive money from your parents, if you're not trading with your own savings, or if the corpus is not yours, even if you're losing, give them an update. Keep giving them an update.
right.
देखो इस week मेरा performance ऐसे रहा. This was the reason. This was the reason because of which I lost. So I made this much. This was my mistake. Then they'll feel that okay, this guy is accountable. This guy is dependable. तो
I
ठीक है
still
ऐसे.
do the same thing every day
हाँ.
basically.
Okay.
I still do the same thing. रोज का बोलता हूँ MTM,
अच्छा.
whatever happens, if I made or lost anything.
Super,
So
because
that's true.
see, I'll tell you what happens. Losing money is not a problem. You're in a business where
Mhm.
losing money is part of
Yeah.
it, right? But they will always assess once again, okay, is this a proportionate loss? You've been making X, does it okay, you've been making 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. You lost 2 lakhs. That doesn't make any sense, right? Like that structure. So they will correct you, they will force you to see the mirror. And also you won't feel like you're doing something wrong. You're not something shameful to lose money when you express that to them, and there's that constant communication. And obviously at the end of the day, it's their money, so you have to be accountable to them about it.
I was trading expiries after that. After that big drawdown, basically, it was very hard to bounce back because you see, a trader has two things. He has to go through two things, which is fear and greed. So what happens after a big drawdown is that you are scared, and also you want to recover your money quickly. So when you are afraid to trade, even if you sell a 50 rupee option and it goes to 55, you will book loss. You will exit. And when again it goes to 45 rupees, you again enter. It goes to 50 rupees, you again book loss. So you are very afraid, and it's not possible to bounce back from a drawdown being very afraid. And after that, you also have that greed. You want to make that money in the same day itself. You want to recover all the money within the next few days, within a very short time, basically, which is also not very productive as per me. Because when you play poker, so there's always this one guy who loses a few games and he becomes frustrated, and then he goes all in, and he blows up basically after that. So don't be that guy. Don't be in a hurry to recover your losses too. So just take proper position sizing, and still you have to take risk even after losing this much. You have to accept the risk, and you can basically take the trades with proper risk, and you can bounce back from a drawdown slowly
So
without
I have a
fear.
question here, Aditya, as a follow-up, and
Yeah,
this is interesting
yeah, yeah.
because different people have a journey coming up with position sizing, how to position size. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so how did you arrive there? So because you had a lot of leverage also back then, and so little bit more also. I think you can tell us about, is your trading positional or like intraday or a mix of both, or I mean expiry trading, though it was intraday, but how did you arrive at what position sizing worked for you? Because you were trading, let's say, about 6.5 lakhs, and then yeah, you had a 40,000 drawdown, which is reasonable, but still, it being the first largest drawdown, it'll hit your confidence. You'll start
It's
thinking,
always hard. The first one is
yeah,
always hard.
yeah, and one more thing is people don't understand, it's not the loss. It's not the loss that's the problem. The problem is you
Mm-hmm.
start thinking, what if it was more, like what if the gap down was twice of this or three times of
Yeah,
this? Then what? Then
and
would
your
not have been
confidence is crushed. Basically, you start to doubt
yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
Am I
and you
even
think,
good enough for this?
yeah, exactly.
So
You
you
think,
have
do I
such
know what
questions
I'm
for that.
doing? I'm getting lucky, right? So that's the question. And so how do you first of all like come up with okay, this is how I will position size. Where
Okay,
did
so
you come
my
up with that from? Yeah.
yeah, so my goal was not to lose 1 to 2% in a single day. That was it. I used to take my positions only as per that rule. I'm not going to lose more than 1% in a day, 1 to 2%, whatever was that. So that's how I used to position myself. And
Okay.
I used to trade intraday and positional. It was both actually, a mixture of both at that time. And positional was also very easy, I would say, at that time, as compared to now, as compared to the present conditions where we have big gaps almost every few days. And I basically only traded Bank Nifty short triangles. And if Bank Nifty started to trend, I just used to take one side. So if it was going up, I just used to take puts, and I used to carry puts home. So in a similar way, I used to trade back then.
Excellent. So your idea was, if I'm getting this right, if you're shorting an option, let's say for 50 rupees, right, and your
Mm-hmm.
stop loss on it is, let me say 70 rupees, okay, positionally speaking. So that 20 rupees into your position size should not exceed 1 to 2% of your capital. So is that what
Yeah,
you're saying? You're
something in a
saying,
similar way. Yeah,
so you
something
you
in a
first
similar way,
come up with
but
your loss, and you don't want to lose more than that. So
more than
that is
1% of my entire capital, I don't want to lose on any given
okay.
day. More than 1 to
Oh,
2% basically. And I didn't use stop losses at that time. I used to adjust the positions. And adjustments used to work back then. It doesn't work very well now, but it used to work back then. If your 50 rupee option goes to 80 rupees, you can sell a 100 rupee option on the opposite side. And that used to work, I think, back then. It was very easy to
okay.
manage basically. Maybe the competition was less. I don't know. The
Yeah, I
margins
mean
required were
that's
much
always
lower
there
back
now.
then.
When because at that
Hmm.
point of time, not much of a content was available online regarding option selling, the strategies, the adjustments, and all that. But now there is
Hmm.
plethora of content readily available to people. So
Yeah.
basically, see, look at this. Anyone who had 1 lakh, 2 lakh, or even 5 lakh capital back then, they would invariably go to options buying or futures trading because there was a lot of content on futures trading, on options buying back then. But now, even if a person has 2 lakh, he'll invariably start with a short straddle. 920 straddle करके ही करता है वो. So the number of people doing the same thing has increased, and definitely that takes some amount of edge from it. It's true. I mean, the simple systems which used to work in a very smooth way back then, now also they work, but they require some amount of intricate tweaking. That's it.
The returns have dropped basically on those systems in the present condition, which used to work very well back then.
True. I and Shreyas have been like expiry traders and all that, so we can see that how
Mm.
difficult expiry trading has become lately. It's not that easy as it used to be before. Usually 90% of the times expiries used to be sideways. It's always expiries always used to be sellers expiries. But now out of like
Exactly.
5 6 expiries, we get one seller's expiry. That's more.
And to put it
Exactly.
simply, there was a point in not so long ago, also, I think barely 2 years back, like you could do a straddle and just leave it, more
Yeah.
or less leave it. Like you didn't really have to do too
Yeah.
much. You just straddle an expiry opening, and the premiums also used on Nifty would be like 70, 80 rupees, not more than that. Like 70, 80 rupees is that would be the rate. Like that's how much. It's nothing now. Now we make 100 point move in the first 5 minute candle, but
Yeah.
you just let it be. It's not the case anymore. Doesn't mean so
100
it
point
has
was a
gotten.
big deal at that time in a single
It's
day.
a,
It was
it
a
was
big
a
deal.
yeah.
Hmm.
So since we are talking about volatility, let's just like go on a tangent here, and let's talk about what Nitin Kamath has said. He said that after the leverage has been taken away, the volatility has dropped. I don't know in what context he's talking about, but intraday mein, the market is moving 1%. It's making 1% moves at least 3 times a day. In the same day, the market is moving 1% down, 1% up, and then again 1% down. So, what do you think about that statement? Because see, at the end, he's the biggest broker in the country, and people definitely take his words seriously. And when I read his tweet, I was like, "What the fuck? What is he even talking about?" So, what do you guys think about it?
I don't agree with him at all. I think the market has become more volatile. I don't know if he trades or not, but the market has definitely become more volatile, especially in intraday. We have too many random spikes and it's just very scattered. We don't have trending days. We don't have proper trending days. The market goes up one day and it falls the next day. So it's very hard to take positions in such a market. So I don't agree with him.
Look, I don't want to comment on anyone. It's like nothing is personal here, but um, at the end of the day, he's a broker. He's a very respectable broker. He's done a lot of things. He's a very good broker, also for that matter. He's done some really good things for the Indian financial markets. He has sort of revolutionized a lot of things. But I don't think he would be qualified to talk about the market behavior as much as somebody whose bread and butter it is to trade and make money purely out of the market. So I don't know about much else, but at least if you talk about the past 6 months, there have been some very, very tricky and volatile phases in the market, which I have not seen before. I can't speak for other people. I have not seen such a random behavior at times. Like at times, it's purely random, right? The behavior of markets. I would say this has been the past 6 months have been probably one of the most volatile periods in the market. So I don't particularly think. I mean, while I can respect Nitin Kamath's opinion on a lot of things, I think I disagree here. And like if you look at it also, I think as far as their trading wing is concerned, I was just going through True Bacon's last year performance, and it has been abysmally low. So it's not like the trading wing has done well. They're basically my very good friend, my close friend. He just pulled out his capital after 1 year and 2 months, and he's generated a negative return. Basically, slightly less than zero in 1 year and 2 months. And if you compare that to what the Nifty has done in the same period, it's been like around 30% gain in Nifty. So I don't particularly think they're very good traders. So that is, I mean, you can pull out True Bacon's data from anyone who has the documents. So quite openly available if you look for it. So I don't think they're qualified to talk on that aspect. But yeah, at the end of the day, everyone looks out for their best interests. As a broker, what he cares about is that his risk has gone down tremendously. His reward stays exactly the same. In fact, it's been
Probably even
growing
more.
because more and
He
more
gets
people
more
coming into the
clients
yeah,
as
more
people
and more.
join Zerodha. Yeah.
Exactly. And he's a good broker. There's no doubt about it. Look,
Yeah. Yeah.
what is
Absolutely.
the main reason I am still with their brokerage, despite having issues, is every broker will have issues. But one thing that Zerodha is knows for a fact that it cannot spoil is its reputation when it comes to reliability and trust. See, the main reason you work with a large broker is
Mhm.
because you know that whatever said and done, there's no risk of this broker doing something shady. Of course, any broker can do
Mhm.
something shady at the end of the day, but
They're quite
that is
transparent
yeah, they're quite transparent. I like that about them.
and the
And
platform is intuitive. It's good to use.
the platform is good. It's not that you
Mhm.
can't come up with a better platform. There are some small brokers. You take First Stock, for example. I've been like, I know Praful also has been speaking with Vikram, who's the founder. They're coming up with really good stuff. But to an outsider, you'll always think 10 times before you work with a smaller broker, because you're like, how safe it is. All of those questions and all will also come up. And that will take them also time and years of building that trust, because trust is the one thing you can't buy overnight, right? So
That's
like
true.
you can't do that.
I
But
mean,
I disagree deeply. I mean, coming back to your question, I think that is bull. I'm sure many people agree with me. The kind of market behavior we saw, just like the last 3 months, more specific, 3 months and 6 months, that period, uh, all over the place.
I mean, yeah,
Because it's
that's
been a news
absolutely
driven
true.
market, right? It's
Exactly.
been a news driven market. And
No,
in
no,
that news
Shreyas.
driven,
I mean, see, the
yeah.
news-driven market is just being in the last like couple of months. But before that, in the
Hmm,
month of September, October, where there was absolutely no news, apart from the fact that okay, यहाँ पे एक third wave आया ये वो. In spite of that, the intraday movements were so volatile. I
yeah.
mean, see, volatility can be. How do they come up with volatility? You can measure a week's volatility, a fortnight's volatility, a monthly volatility, or an intraday volatility. If you see on a close to close basis, okay, Nifty has moved only 0.3%, 0.4%, but from point A to point B, how many times it has moved like 1% in within that thing? So for me, the volatility is, bro, you take the range of 5 minute candles and check what the volatility is in that 5 minute candle when it comes to the perspective of intraday players. And the
Yeah.
leverage is for the intraday players. So when you're talking about leverage and you're talking about volatility, like measure it on the same scale.
Yeah. What is the average length of a 5 minute
Yeah,
candle
average
in a
length of
day?
5 minute candle.
And you can set a base also, divided by whatever is the base value of
Yeah,
the
exactly.
underlying.
In terms of percentage, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. I think someone should run that kind of
I
study.
run I ran it.
Awesome.
No. I ran it already. I've run it.
Okay.
I've run this and it has increased almost 2.5 times.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm talking
That's
about
you should
percentage base.
publish this. You should publish
We
this. You
should.
should put this
I
together.
did it with Krishna
Yeah.
Put it
only.
on Twitter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
You
think
should
I
like
think
structure this
Put
yeah.
that
and
thread to Twitter and make a thread.
and ask Mr. Kamath also to comment on it. I'm sure he'll have something to say. But Aditya, how has it been for you? Because obviously market phases have changed a lot, and then of course, in your journey, you also had the Corona period. What was that like for you? And post Corona, because I know now you handle a substantial amount of funds, right? You're handling over 1 crore of funds, if I'm not wrong. So, how is that? I mean, where did you get from there? Early stages to being where you are now.
Okay, so what I think is that the market cycles keep on changing every quarter. So the behavior of the market, the behavior of the options, not going to stay the same. It will change every 3 months basically. So even when we look in the present, Thursdays used to be great in 2021. It used to be very easy. That's not the case in this year itself. Since Jan, we are having quite volatile expiries. So you have to keep on changing as per the market. I'm not going very aggressively to trade expiries these days, especially. But I used to trade very aggressively last year in 2021. So you have to keep on changing and on identifying that something is changing. So you have to identify what's changing in the market. So what happened was that during the COVID crash, was not trading much. It was the first time I was seeing something like that. I remember I bought like 3 or 4 lot of put options overnight, and I made a huge profit right at the open. So I was doing such things, trading in very small quantities, buying options because I was afraid to sell options basically. But after the in the recovery phase, I started to sell options, and it was a great time basically. And that time continued till 2021 May, I think, because the VIX falling and you could sell any options basically and it would still go to zero. So now it's the time where a trader has to identify that it's not the skill that's making you profits. It's just the VIX crash which is making you such huge profits. So you don't have to call yourself an expert. So it's hard to identify such things.
Okay, let's
Absolutely.
briefly talk about the method that you follow to put on your trades. So how do you put your trades? Like what are the things that you look at? Just
Okay,
give us
so
a
first of
brief,
all,
like super, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
superficial thing. Let's not get
Mhm.
into details.
So first of all, I look at global markets, what's happening, the global futures, basically the Dow futures, how are they behaving, whether they are up or down, and I just take a rough view from that. I don't rely on it, just a, I just take a reference from that.
Hmm.
After that, I look at what's happening with Bank Nifty, the monthly chart, how is it behaving, the weekly chart, and the daily chart. I just do this once in a week,
Mm-hmm.
and I just see if it's a breakout or it's still inside a range. And if Bank Nifty is inside a range, I try to sell neutral options, basically short strangles, naked short strangles. And then I carry it forward from there as the week progresses. But I don't like to trade on Fridays mostly. And I just go all in on Wednesday and Thursday these days.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, I used to carry positions every day, but these days, not much into that. I don't even trade with my full size on intraday basis on Friday, Monday, and Tuesdays.
So I have a question here. So you're doing
Mhm.
positional strangle selling, let's say Bank Nifty, but in weekly expiries, have you considered monthly expiries? Any reason why you want, like, you, or do you do both of them? Is there any, what is the analogy behind why weekly and not monthly?
I just do it in weekly expiry because it gives you instant profit, obviously with the added risk. And if you can handle the risk, I think it's a good way to trade, basically. I could be wrong because I know so many people who would not agree with me as to carrying overnight positions, but I do carry overnight positions usually. And I've reduced it actually in this year itself. Otherwise, I used to carry every day and it does give good profit to me. And also, I have faced big gaps. So
Hmm.
again, don't get
So
too
you
into
have the confidence
it.
from,
Who has watched it?
previously
Yeah,
you have,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, excellent.
After
But
a
have
certain
you,
while, I think you after a certain while, I think you become immune to the gaps and you know what to do if you face such gaps. So you don't have fear of gaps after that.
But Aditya, but still you're taking like
Yeah,
overnight naked positions, right? So
yeah,
uh,
naked.
there is no risk hedge there. So what if tomorrow market opens at circuit? Because when I want to put on any
Mm-hmm.
positional trades, the first thing that I'm gonna see is, okay, bro, I'm gonna assume that today some political assassination is gonna happen, or some shit's gonna just break out, and then tomorrow we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
open at 10% circuit or 20% circuit for that matter. So when that happens, what would be my mark to market? And at that point, will I be in a sane, rational state of mind to take the corrective actions, or to come out, or to do whatever, just to be in a right state of mind to continue trading? So that would be my approach, because I don't care, okay, there is no news flow in the scenario, there is no whatever it is, but still I consider that,
Mm-hmm.
okay, bro, this is the worst case scenario, so am I capable of handling that? But you are taking like naked strangles. So do you recommend other people to do it, or do you sometimes question ki, okay, should I be doing it, or should I stop doing it, or should I reduce my position size, or should I hedge it? Like, what's your thought process on that?
All right. So I do naked short strangles on Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
mostly on Wednesday with all my capital. And the
Mm-hmm.
way I think it is that you like we all have to die one day, basically.
Ah.
It could sound a bit stupid, but we all have to die one day. And God forbid, but you are walking on the street and a car hits you. What will happen? You have to die one day. And I cannot keep on thinking about worst case scenarios every time. And I don't know if we have ever opened with a right in the gap itself. And if I will lose, just think about what will happen to the traders who carry positional futures. They will lose more than me, I think, if
yeah,
we
fair
open with
enough.
a
But here
profit.
I have the same question. So what is your per lot, like for example, for 2 lakhs of capital do you have,
Hmm.
um, are you trading one lot, or are you trading like how much ever your margin allows you? Because even someone who's trading positional futures, trust me on this, there is no way that they have 100% of their margin short or long Nifty. Like, for example, if I'm a futures trader with 1 crore CAR and I have a position, maybe I'm using 10%, 15%, 20% of my margin. It depends. That will vary on what kind of system I'm running. But I will not be 100% of my. I guarantee you this. No futures trader is 100% of their margin long or short.
Yeah, it's not going to
So
happen.
what is your sizing according to your margin? And secondly, since positional trading, at least when I used to do it, I sort of, even if I'm doing weekly selling, hedged, I always want, it was always the argument of, okay, monthly will give me enough time because the effect of these gamma moves is not going to be so big. I won't feel the need to adjust for delta. What happens in weekly is eventually your one leg has no premium, so to adjust for delta you kind of have to come very close, right? So whereas in monthly the premium doesn't go away so quickly. So the way I put it is monthly gives you time to react. Like it doesn't, the mark to market swing is not going to be so quick. I mean, it is possible in a big move, but it's not going to be so fast. It gives you time to react. So on these three things, like one, how do you position size? Because I get the analogy of what happens to a futures guy who's long, but a futures guy is not going to, trust me, he's not using more than 10, 15, 20% of his margin on a futures position. In fact, that is at the higher end. Nobody's going to be doing it so high. So what is the analogy there, Aditya?
All right, so I do use all my capital and it's short triangles. So if I get screwed, I just get screwed on one side itself and not on both the sides. So again, the one side which I'm carrying is not actually with my full capital. It might be like 60, 70%, I think so, of my capital.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get it or not. Like I
Yeah,
won't
yeah,
get screwed on both the sides. Yeah.
Yeah,
Only on
true,
one
true.
side. So that's not with all my capital. I'm going in on that single side itself.
True.
So that's how I do it. And if it opens with a huge gap down, something will happen. It's not going to stay there. It will be very rare for the market to stay there. Either it will go up, either it will go down. And even if it stays there, the premiums will be huge and it will be easy to manage it in intraday. So that's how I look at it. Like
Fair enough.
I will
Yeah, I mean,
recover
yeah,
at
I
least
think
some
that
part of
makes a
it.
lot of sense because whenever there's a huge
Mhm.
gap down, the IVs will definitely spike badly,
Yeah.
and then you have a
Mm.
higher chance of making it back up. If not completely, at least you can recover 30, 40,
At least some
50%
part
of
of
your
it.
some part of your losses. That's true. But still, see, taking naked positions overnight, that gives me chills. And I don't think I can ever have this YOLO attitude. हाँ कभी तो कभी मरेंगे. So
No, matlab, see here again, once again, it comes down to the fact that, and this is, I'm playing devil's advocate here, even though I would tend to feel the same way, is that look, people say more damage is done waiting for a black swan than in a black swan itself,
that's
right?
true.
So people
That's
say
true.
that's
Mm.
true, but at the same time, I mean, I don't particularly subscribe to the analogy. But have you ever thought, Aditya, maybe just 1 rupee option wherever it's available, you can buy that also? Like, have you thought of that? It's just not worth it. Um,
I haven't thought of that. I
okay.
haven't bought options, I think.
Okay. ठीक है. I mean,
I'm
and
not
as
used
a
to hedging
hedge.
my positions basically.
Huh.
I don't like to hedge because it takes a good chunk of your profits away.
True. True.
And I'm fine with the risk of the gap down. Hence I take positions.
I have a question. So I don't remember exactly which expiry, but I think it was either like
24th Feb. 24th Feb.
this year.
24th Feb. It was
24th
a
Feb.
huge gap
Huge
down.
gap down, right? So
I remember I
Yeah,
was in
yeah,
Goa
yeah.
that day.
I remember.
yeah.
It was the worst one I've faced in 4 years.
Okay. What was
It
it?
was on
Because that
Thursday.
was
It was
bad. I
on
remember.
Thursday. I remember.
I remember
24th
8 rupee
Feb.
option opened at like 200. Like the 16,500 opened at some ridiculous
Yeah.
Yeah,
price,
yeah.
something like that. No.
It was the
Uh,
same date. It was an expiry date. It was Thursday. And
huh.
we had news of war, Ukraine war. I remember that.
Yeah. So what happened to
So,
you? What position were you in, and like what happened?
so on Wednesday, the market was exactly in a range, and I
Yeah.
sold short triangles. And it was not just with all my capital. I bought hedges, FAR OTM,
Oh,
so I could take more quantity.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then
Huh.
the markets, as soon as the markets opened up, I was in a loss of like 6 or 7%, which was 6 or 7 lakhs.
Okay.
And towards the end, I managed to recover some of it and I closed at 2.8 lakh loss, which was 2.8%.
Superb.
Still,
So
I think
I
it's
learned
it's
something.
decent enough, right? Considering the fact
Yeah,
that on an expiry and when the gamma
yeah.
is like killing you, and in spite of that fact, like you closed at
Mhm,
minus 2.8, it's good enough.
Like, what did you do?
mhm.
I mean, if you can just walk us through step by step, like
Yeah, yeah,
what?
sure. So as soon as the markets opened, I was watching, and I still didn't square off my puts. It was a gap down. So I was just watching, and then the markets started to go down. So I waited for like 15 or 20 minutes, and then I squared off my puts, and the market was range bound, I think so, for a good 1 or 2 hours. So
Yes.
I was just sitting there. I added few calls, and as soon as the markets broke the day low, I went aggressively on selling calls. I had only calls, and then it kept on falling, and the calls gave me good profits. So I sold at the money option, and it was quite aggressive, I think, and that helped me to recover that.
Superb, superb. Uh, so what was the max loss possible on that position? Does it come back to you? Do you feel ever that what was the max loss on this, because it was hedged, right?
It was hedged, but I did those hedges to go in with more
Just for the
quantity.
margin benefit.
Just for the
Margin
quantity,
benefit.
I bought those far OTM options just for
Okay.
the margin benefit. And what I learned is that I should not take net positions with more quantity than my entire capital. Like I should not buy those hedges basically.
Okay.
All my capital is fine. And if I'd use all my capital, I would just open with 3 or 4% loss, I think, 3 or 4 lakh loss, which I would have recovered by the end. It was not my first gap. I'd seen so many gaps in these 4 years, and I've lost money on these gaps. So I knew what to do. So basically, what I do is I wait for 15 minutes first of all, and how is the market reacting?
Hmm.
Is the gap sustaining or is it going back up?
Hmm.
Or, because sometimes the market just fills the gap easily, and a lot of time, but that usually happens on a gap up day rather than a gap down day.
Yeah.
So I was very chilled out at that time. I was not very stressed out because see, I've seen so many gaps. So it does become like you do become immune to these gaps at some point or the other.
See, this is one thing. Okay, you becoming immune to the gaps,
Mhm,
and but you
mhm,
now are trading with a higher quantity. You're trading with a higher corpus,
mhm,
and so the mark to market,
mhm,
even though it is in percentage terms, the absolute numbers do
mhm.
tend to have an impact on your psyche, right? So let's say the
Yeah.
previous gap you handled, probably it was at a stage where where you were handling, like, let's say 25 lakhs capital, but now the same kind of
Mhm.
gap occurred when you are handling 1 CR capital. So the mark to market losses, though on a percentage basis they are same, the absolute numbers do tend to have an impact, right? So what was that impact on your mind?
So what I believe is that you have to look trading as a video game. You cannot consider it as a real money that if you lose 7 lakh. So some people start to think, what will 7 lakh buy you? I can buy this car, I can buy this. So you cannot think of trading in that way. You have to look at things in percentages and just a video game. So that's how I think it, and it keeps the pressure off me. Otherwise, you will be in a lot of pressure if you start to look at absolute figures and you think of it as what can this money buy you.
That's true.
So I
That's an
don't
excellent
think like that.
psychological hack. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I just
where do
think of it
you
as a video game.
superb, superb. So where do you see this progressing, Aditya? What is the goal here? Because you're 24, you're very young. So have you decided that, first of all, congratulations on your new office, and
Thank you,
wish you
thank
all the
you.
very best. And may everything be positive there. So
Mhm.
what is the idea here? Like, what is the career path that you see yourself in trading? And what are your goals around there, just to understand a little bit more.
I am still figuring out that uh, I want to scale up my capital more. I have to ask more for my mom and dad, or maybe like that, if they support me. And I'm still figuring it out. I want to grow my capital and just stay, I think so, in a
I
better
think
way.
I think if I'm not wrong, like you've already returned close to 70 plus percentage this year, right?
It's 100 plus
Oh yeah, it's
in
100 plus.
Wow.
2021 in
Absolutely
this financial year since 1st
amazing.
April.
Hmm.
Yeah, and a major chunk came from came from the first 3 months
Okay.
where the VIX was crashing.
Okay.
Superb.
Yeah. But I think
So
now
it
now
could
your
be just my
parents
luck.
now your parents can definitely trust you and help you increase your scale up your capital and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, they can.
That is amazing. That is so nice. And I think this is where in trading, people can have different perspectives, but at the end of the day, it is about what is in your comfort zone. And I something that's respectable. And but at the same, like this came up earlier also when, for example, you guys saw that tweet of Mitesh Bhai where he's like, okay, gap down plus made a trading mistake, lost 22%, and then recovered
Mhm.
22%, 23% like in a day. I looked there and
Yeah.
said, in my life, it's not going to happen. Like, if it gapped down and I made a mistake, I'm closing
Mhm.
that trading day and probably not trading for the next 3 months also. Like, it's not in me to do that. Like, and there's one good way of there's this awe of looking at it and saying that wow, that's pretty amazing. Another way of looking at it and saying, look, not everyone can do that. I can't do that. I cannot forget. If that trade first of all has lost me 20%, there's no way I'm making it back. 100%, khalas, it's gone. Because I know my mind is not going to be able to do that. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but on a regular day, there's no way I'm targeting.
Mhm.
See, how do I trade? Be it expiry, I'm generally targeting 1%. That's my thing. I'm targeting between 0.75 to 1.25%. That's my sweet spot. That's what I'm going for. That's how
4 to 5
I'm.
lakhs, basically.
Yeah. I'm going 4 to 5 lakhs.
Mhm.
If really it's going very well, maybe some opportunity, I'll sort of take
Mhm.
my approach beyond that is I'll take a swing, which is terribly
Mhm.
high risk reward. Okay, it's like very small stop loss. Either it works or I get pushed out. That's the funda. It's like
Mhm.
it works or I get pushed out, and the cost is very little. Now, such kind of stuff is my trading psychology. It has not. Now, I'm holding a position which, let's say, maximum can overnight. Let's say can make me 3% or 4% on my capital size, and if I'm losing so much, it's impossible. I'm not the kind of guy who can do that.
Mhm.
So the same way, for example, how to Praful or me, your style of trading may be like, okay, this is like difficult for us to completely, because the way you said into that gap down, you were very calm and you were able to reduce that 6% into a 2%. That's good. That means that you're the kind of person who functions in that environment, whereas somebody like me would not, you know so
Yeah.
it's very personal at the end of the day, and it's it's
You can do
it's
it, I think so. I think
nay, I
anyone can
can't.
do
I'll
it,
tell you why.
provided he has
Psychology.
experience and
Exactly. The See, Aditya, the
practice
uh,
की बात है, I
people say
think.
that okay, knowledge, skills, capital, they are the limiting factors in trading, but the limiting factor is psychology. The limiting factor is your personality. If you are a person who
Hmm.
can handle the pressures well, if you can handle like the how do I put it, the high voltage scenarios in a very calm and composed way, then these kinds of positional trading is for you. But if you're a person like just by looking at the pre-market and seeing that oh fuck, like it's opening 1.5% gap down, like I need to be just able to exit my positions on the very first tick, then probably it I'm not saying that we can't do that. We can do that if we can have continuous practice and take incremental
Mhm.
risks and build on it. But then at this point of time, it's not in the comfort zone. Like as Shreyas said, even for me, that's not in my comfort zone.
Okay,
no,
okay.
you're right, Aditya, about the practice thing, but I'll put it this way. I believe every trader, like you said, is playing a game, right? They're playing their own game
Mhm.
that you have made the rules for. Now,
Mhm.
what rules have I made in my life that on a daily basis, even like a non-expiry day, whatever, my risk and reward on my capital is very little. Like my risk will not exceed 1% of my capital. Very rarely it exceeds 1% of my capital. So if I have to take a 22% trade in a day, let's say I had no positions overnight, would I return 22% on that day? I doubt it, right? Now, because
Mhm.
let us say I've lost a big chunk, and I'm talking about me, and everyone has their own thing. There's no way I would do that. So, in a day where I'm
Mhm.
losing, at a time when I'm losing, I'm increasing my risk, and I'm talking about me personally here. For me, I would end up losing money on that second trade also, because my psychology, you can't change the person you are. You can get all the practice you want. You can't
Mhm.
change the person you are. You can't take an X kind of trader and make him a Y kind of trader, because it is at the end of the day a reflection of how you are,
Your
and
personality
not
trait.
how much you know.
Exactly.
It's not how much you know. Na?
That's the
Like,
beauty of trading, I think.
Yeah.
yeah. So
The
everyone
Beauty
writes
of
their own
trading.
story.
Everyone has their own personality. Everyone has their own trading style. It's not the
ex-
same for any two of the person.
exactly.
Exactly. And while it might seem like, Praful has something else to say, I have something else to say. This is the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Everyone's opinions are
Mhm.
totally freaking valid, and it holds good for something else. There are huge people, like you take some of the biggest traders who carry huge positions overnight between Wednesday and Thursday,
Mhm.
because majority of the time, even if it's a 100-point gap up, that put option going to lose money.
Yeah.
That's how it is. Right? So that's how it is. And awesome. So Aditya, first of all, I think this conversation, if nothing else, it proves to everyone, all the viewers, that look, there is no set way of doing things, and as long as it fits with you personally, if you are someone
Mhm.
who can function calmly regardless, because you understand truly the risks of your position, because finally it comes down to understanding the risks of your positions, and you have accepted it. Now when you truly accept that risk, not much can shake you, and you will be able to manage it. Because to put it quite simply, if I was you and I had that position and I'm looking at 6%, I would have cut my trade right there. I would have gone home. I'd been like, I'm done. Because I know that if I continue to trade from there, simply because this is how I am conditioned over time, I would lose more
Mhm.
money. I mean, I'm not just saying that. It's very likely that I would lose more money, which is why I'd be like, no, thank you. My technique is, whenever I'm a little bit also shaken, I close. I'm out. I think my only advantage in the market has been running away, and that's what has worked for me. Whereas for you, you've conditioned you've seen that many times that position going against you, and you fixed it. So that's awesome. But I want to go back to something that you said earlier about your entire perspective changing once you came
Mhm.
onto social media and you started interacting with
Yeah.
DJ Sir and Mitesh Bhai, and you have
Mhm. Mhm.
worked with them. So DJ Sir, I know personally, is very very sweet gentleman. So I just want to
Yeah.
understand how much of an impact has that had on you, and what was that
So
part
I
like?
speak to him on regular basis, and what I learned from him is not some trading strategy or some secret holy grail strategy, but how he thinks about trading and making profits. So the best thing what I learned from him is the MTM failing. So what happens? So what used to happen is that when I was in 1 lakh profit and some spike came in Bank Nifty, my profit used to pipe out and turn into a loss. So what he told me is that if you're in 1 lakh profit and your profit goes to 70,000, just book your profits. At least do it once. You can always get back in afterwards, don't let the, but don't let the profits go away. Book your profits at least once. So that's one very important thing which I learned from DJ Sir. And I also learned from him that you don't have to hit six on every ball. Just hit six on a loose ball.
He likes to call
You don't
himself the
go aggressive
Dravid.
on all the setup. Yeah. So that's one thing which I learned, that don't go aggressive into every trade you take. Just be calm and just hit six on a loose ball. When you get such trades like the market is throwing money at you, only take a risk on such trades and don't just blindly take risk.
That is
So
such
these are the
excellent
principles
advice.
I
Yeah.
learned from him. And I also learned from him. Actually, he advised me recently that keep on buying stocks, start to
Yeah.
invest for long term, start to buy blue
He
chip stocks.
advised me the same
And
thing.
that's also something you do. And that's also something you do, I think.
Yeah.
You have a big portfolio. So, and he also told me to just stick with the top stocks, the only blue chip stocks,
Yeah.
Asian Paints, HDFC Bank, TCS,
He asked me
And the
and
to do the
start
market
same
building
thing.
up
leaders,
your
Like
right?
every
portfolio.
expiry, तुम्हारा जो भी profit आएगा, 20% you just buy off at whatever the price there is. You might think that okay, I
Mhm.
might be buying at a high price. I might not be getting. I might not be getting an opportunity to buy the dip or something. But over the long run, everything just evens out. Just keep buying every Thursday. तुम्हारा जो भी profit होगा expiry day से
Mhm.
20% buy कर लो stocks. You'll thank me later.
Yeah, the same thing he told me.
See,
That is
that's the.
excellent
I'm
advice.
sorry.
You want to transition to passive income at some point, and
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah.
be able to do other things. Because the way I see it, as a trader, if you're not like in a position to,
Mhm.
at some point take a back seat and be like, I want to chill a little
Yeah.
bit and still have investments making money for you. But I think that's great advice.
See,
Awesome.
this is Shreyas, this is one thing which there is a misconception about, because people look at us as like money minting people, right? Like, हाँ यार, मतलब mouse click करते हैं and पैसे आ जाता है. So what are these guys doing? But it's still work. There is there's a lot of work that goes behind this, right? So active trading is like a regular job itself. So people don't understand it. हाँ trader बोले तो तुम तो यार मतलब कंप्यूटर के सामने बैठते हो, पैसे बनाते हो. So even that waiting for your trades to come out profitable, that waiting is also a job. Because
Definitely.
you not doing anything when the market doesn't ask you to do anything requires a good amount of willpower, right? Like when the market says don't do anything and you not doing anything is also work in itself.
I'll put it this way, okay? Day trading is like working in a factory. Okay, it's literally like you're going there like in a steel factory and hammering that steel into shape. That's what day trading is like. If you are someone who's trading positional trading more than 45 days to expiry, stuff like that, then maybe it's more like a white collar job. All right. So
It's quite boring, I think so.
yeah,
It's quite
it's a little
boring to
more
trade in
boring,
monthly
but
options.
yeah, but day trading is no less than working in a factory. And like I was just talking about this like last week. I think expiry trading, especially, in a way, it's like a love-hate relationship, because you make money or not, you're still going to be. It's a stressful thing. People don't realize that you learn to deal with stress better the longer you do something. It doesn't make it less stressful.
Yeah,
It is a
absolutely
stressful
true.
process. So it is active earning, and I'm sure if you were to compare lifespans, expiry traders would have below average lifespan versus so it's important to focus on your health. I've also started doing a little bit of exercise inspired by you, Praful. Thoda bahut is like so awesome. But beautiful conversation, Aditya. It's such a pleasure to have
Yeah.
you. And just literally, I think people have so much to take away from this. Even at the points where we differ, I think there's so much to take away from it,
Yeah,
because it's all about
And I want to
perspective.
add just one point. I want to add one point that most people want to make huge returns. They want to make like 15% ROI, but they should understand that even I have made 100% in a year, but my monthly goal is just 4%. If I have a 10% monthly goal, it puts a pressure on me, which is not good.
that's true.
So 4% keeps the pressure off me. And also, whatever I get more than 4%, I just consider it as just a bonus. So that's how one should think. And one should not target huge ROIs in a month itself.
I think this comes from Mitesh Patel, Mitesh Bhai, I guess, because he keeps saying in all his
Yes,
videos, तो
yes,
4% target करो, जो भी ऊपर आएगा वो bonus है.
exactly. I learned this from him. I learned a lot from him, basically.
So thank you so much, Aditya, for sharing all your experiences. I'm sure it has been a huge learning experience for everyone who's watched this, and looking forward to connect with you more and seeing how you evolve as a trader. We were talking offline about how you're now looking at diversifying into certain other strategies as your capital grows. So I wish you all the very best with that, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This episode can resonate with a lot of people because there is a lot of young crowd who want to trade right after graduation, but they don't know how to convince their parents, how to raise capital, like how should I start with a low capital. तो अगर low capital रहता है तो मैं can I make enough money so that I can support myself and my family. So if not, when should I ask the next round of capital from my parents? So how should I be accountable? So अगर हमको कोई पैसे दे रहा है तो what should be the basic etiquette कि हाँ जाके उनको बताओ कि ये हो रहा है ये हो रहा है, keep them updated. So all these things I think people can take away a lot of these points from this episode. And again another thing is that like Twitter has been branded as हाँ यहाँ पे लोग आते हैं उसका उनका कोर्स बेचते हैं, कुछ तो fake screenshots लगाते हैं, ये करते हैं वो करते हैं, but there is an other side to it. There are a lot of genuine people, there are a lot of good people, because Shreyas, last time we had Yogeshwar also, even he talked about how he has been influenced by a lot of good people on Twitter and how he learned so many stuff regarding trading from a lot of these good traders. So it's just that like don't get लोगों को क्या होता है, बड़ा स्क्रीनशॉट डालता है, बड़ी गाड़ी दिखाता है, बड़ा एक लैविश फैंसी लाइफस्टाइल दिखाता है, तो उनको मान लेते हैं कि है गुरुजी है. तो ये चल रहा है, पता है गुरुजी का कुछ तो चल रहा था ट्विटर पे. तो don't go by what they show, but go like just follow them for a couple of months or something, and then assess that okay, so this person is right to be called a mentor or something. There are a lot of genuine good helpful people on Twitter community, so make use of that, and I'm sure you guys got a lot of takeaways from this video. And yeah, we'll catch up in our next episode. Thank you, have a great weekend, bye bye.